Hello, I'm Richard Morecroft, and welcome to Letters and Numbers, where it is time to galvanise the grey matter and get ready to play along with tonight's contestants. We will meet them in just a second or two. But before that, if she was a politician, she'd always have the numbers. I am positive of that. It's Lily Serna.
Hi, Richard.
Hello, Lily. Now, speaking of positive, we really only deal in positive numbers, don't we, in the show?
We don't like to dwell on the negative here.
That's right. We stay cheery in a mathematical mode. Welcome, Lily. And the man who always puts in a good word for this show, the polysyllabic, David Astle. You're a sort of cheerful kind of guy, you know, the glass half full sort of approach to life.
There's actually a thing called the Sunday breakfast test, which is a rule of thumb in crossword making, and it applies to not putting too many negative, sort of pessimistic ideas or diseases or disasters into your crosswords. People don't want to read about that on a Sunday morning.
Disease and disaster-free crossword clues. I think that should be your signature. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And to the people without whom there would be nothing much for us to do, really, our contestants. First up, our carryover champion, GP and crossword enthusiast, Nick Carr. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks, Richard.
Now, in fact, being in a TV studio is not really that much of a novelty for you, is it?
No, I was lucky enough to dabble in a bit of television a few years back.
What were you up to?
I was doing medical stories on the ABC with the wonderful George Negus.
What sort of medical approaches were you bringing to the show?
We used to give good health information about stories about things like asthma or diabetes, and we'd talk to people out in the fields, and sometimes I'd be the expert on the couch here in the studio with George.
Sounds fascinating stuff. Well, it's great to have you as our expert contestant and carryover champion tonight. And ready to challenge Nick is Robert Jackson, a man of many talents. He's a musician and composer who plays guitar and saxophone. He's also a painter and an actor. Well, welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Richard. It's lovely to be here.
You are obviously a Renaissance man. How did you come to diversify so much?
Well, you know, I'm no spring chicken anymore, Richard, and you get a lot of time to practice different things.
Where do you see your priorities, though? You know, would you see yourself as mainly a musician?
I'm mostly a musician. I've come to acting through the back door, really, just through doing theatre shows and getting a small part here and there, and that leading one thing to another, really.
Well, excellent. Plenty of chance of performance tonight.
Thank you.
Good luck. So, all the best against the clock tonight. Please welcome Nick Carr and Robert Jackson. To start proceedings and the first opportunity for correct answers, the letters game. And Nick, you are our carryover champion. You get to make the first choice.
Thank you, Richard. Lily, I'll go with the consonant first, please.
Thanks, Nick. Let's start with a P.
And a vowel, please.
I.
And another vowel.
E.
Consonant, please.
N.
And another consonant.
F.
I'll have a vowel, please.
I.
And another vowel.
A.
A consonant, please.
N.
And another consonant.
And lastly, S.
Thank you, Lily. Our first clock for the night. Well, Nick, our first word for tonight's show, what did you get?
Well, I hope you're going to let me have this one. I had 7 letters.
We'll see. David's looking stern over there. You never know. What about you, Robert?
I could only manage 5, I'm afraid.
Let's start with your 5.
Pains.
Okay, and Nick, what was yours?
I went with paninis.
Paninis. But can we have the plural, David?
Unfortunately, Nick, panini is the plural of panino, which are those beautiful Italian bread rolls. So we cannot accept that. Thinking of making bread, I had pinnies, which is the Australian shortening of pinafores for a possible 7, P-I-N-N-I-E-S. Taking us back to Robert with pains. Well done, a great 5.
So, 5 points for Robert there. No time for rest this early in the show. Straight on to our second letter game for tonight. And this time, Robert, would you make some selections for us, please?
I would like to start with a consonant, please.
Certainly. Let's start with a G.
And another consonant, please.
D.
and a vowel,
I,
and another vowel,
U,
and another consonant,
R,
and another vowel, please,
E,
and another consonant, please,
L,
and another vowel,
I,
and another consonant, please.
and lastly T.
And here's the clock. So, Robert, how did you go with your first selection of letters?
I've got a 6 actually, Richard.
A 6, Nick?
I got a 6.
All right, Robert, let's go with yours first.
I'm going for guider.
And Nick?
I had the same, guider.
Oh, well, look, if you could guide your pages towards each other, that would be great. Now, David, this is a word that's come up before, I think, in fact, even on last night's program.
Last night's show, so I can do a little bit of Nostradamus here and say, guider, guider, guide me. Is this a word? Yes, it is a word. We checked it last night.
What did you get, David?
Well, when I did my little hocus pocus a minute ago with guider, in fact, I was guilty of playing a fraud. In fact, I was guiltier than the other guy. So guiltier is a possible 8. That's Guiltier.
Very nice. Thank you, David. 6 points each, though, for Nick and Robert. Let's juggle a few numbers now for the first time tonight. Our contestants will have to multiply, add, divide and subtract to achieve our target number. They'll need some figures to work with, though. Nick, could you choose, please?
Thanks, Richard. Lily, could I please have 3 large and 3 small?
3 large and 3 small. Thanks, Nick. Starting to suspect this is your favourite combination. And our numbers are 6, 7, another 6, and the 3 large, 50, 75 and 25, and the target to reach 218.
30 seconds to get there. So, Nick, how close did you get to 218?
Well, I didn't because I realised I used the 25 twice.
Oh, dear. What about you, Robert?
I believe I've got 218.
218. Very nice indeed. Take us there, please.
Okay, 6 times 50 is 300.
6 by 50 is 300.
Minus 75 is 225.
Minus 75 is 225.
Minus 7 is 218.
Minus 7, 218.
Very nicely done, Robert. Right on target there, Lily. Did you use the same method to get there?
I did. Well done to Robert. I'd use the same method.
A great approach. So 10 points to Robert. That means that Nick is on 6. Robert now on a total of 21. We're heading for our first break this evening and your first word mix for the night. This time it's Virus 1. And the clue, take this home to remind you. Back after the break.